So when we talk about reality being a creation of the mind, and how it is beneficial for us to take an active interest in increasing lucidity, what we are ultimately trying to establish is putting the mind over matter. This is a reordering process of awareness, consisting of establishing a new existential methodology which prioritizes the attention towards clear seeing and de-emphasizes the attention away from distractions. The implications of mind over matter have been discussed at great lengths over the course of time, and has even been seen demonstrated to a certain degree. A prime example of such is certain individuals having the capacity to shut off pain, whether it be walking on hot coals, lying on a bed of nails, putting pins, needles, and knives through various parts of the body. Humans have the capacity to manage pain without taking drugs. Now, how could that be possible? Well, most of us would say it's impossible, right? It must be a parlor trick. There can just be no way to shut off pain. You know, a lot of times, introspective science knows things well in advance of physical science. And quite often, the physical science ends up confirming what the introspective science already knew, often thousands of years beforehand. And now, physical science has possibly stumbled across a potential way to do the unimaginable. To shut off pain. But wait, isn't that impossible? Well, not so fast. Scientists have been tinkering around with rodents and found a way to block a pain pathway in rats with chronic neuropathic pain due to nerve damage. They did this by switching on a receptor, known as A3, in the rodent's brain and spinal cord, to counteract intense feelings of discomfort. And you know it won't be long till they figure out a way to apply this to humans. If it's not shelved due to being unprofitable. So you see, there's always a literal way to address the particulars of physicality. But this is only necessary when the matter is above the mind. When matter is above the mind, doctors have to cut into your body to add or remove parts, as opposed to you healing them yourself with the mind. Wait, healing them ourselves with the mind? That's just utterly inconceivable. How could such a preposterous proposal even be plausible? Right? Well, it has to do with the very potent and unlimited powers of what we will call the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the agency that is most appropriately called the mind, or awareness. Whereas what's referred to as the conscious mind is more apt to be identified as your mind, or the consciousness. Don't confuse consciousness with awareness. Awareness is the primary agency. Consciousness is part of the illusory persona. Consciousness deals with the seen, while awareness is concerned with the seeing. The power of the subconscious mind has been explored through hypnosis, and we've really only scratched the surface of the tip of this iceberg. Mankind's exploration into the subconscious is still in its infancy. Really, Sage? Hasn't man been exploring the subconscious for decades and learned everything there is to know about it? Again, infancy. Yes, for thousands and thousands of years it has been examined, and we're still in the dawn of discovering its possibilities. So, no. We have not even learned 10% of what we could potentially uncover. Now, I mentioned hypnosis because this is another area where the power of the subconscious has been demonstrated. The power of hypnotic suggestion has given us a glimpse into the subconscious mind's great untapped potential. Photographic recall, varying feats of physicality, pain reduction, extrasensory perception, and access into the collective unconscious, aka the universal mind, are just a few examples of the possibilities. Possibilities that have also been stumbled across in deep meditation, sensory deprivation, and psychedelic experiences. So why do these altered states all seem to connect us to a mysterious aspect of ourselves that we cannot normally access? Or, a better question would be, why are we so disconnected from these possibilities in our day-to-day lives? Well, the primary reason would seem to be that it's all the result of a conditioning. A conditioning that has been instilled in us, which started very early in our lives, when we were still just mere infants. A description of reality that was shaped, molded, and then solidified into our current grounded positional perception of reality. What we have done thus far is understandable. We found ourselves projected into our own creation with a fresh case of amnesia, grasping at straws in the wild. And one cannot redirect the attention to where it needs to be when all one's attention is wrapped up in negotiating with survival. And the raw, indifferent, discriminating ways of nature are brutal and without mercy, and certainly could be said to have left consciousness with a case of post-traumatic stress. So, in response, attachments have been established, which enabled us to get our feet planted firmly on the ground, and were fortified with the advent of routines, rituals, traditions, and cultures, which gave rise to further reinforcements of theologies, ideologies, mythologies, and philosophies, which in turn led us to where we are today, cemented neatly in a modern world where certainty seems to have been found, and very little seems to be left to doubt. Perhaps we have gotten a leg up on survival, but at what cost? So we survive just for the sake of survival? Is that the goal? To just survive by any means necessary, even in declined states of quality? to be continually sustained in a constricted, dependent, and disempowered mode of being, tightly confined to a narrow set of parameters? Is this where we want to be? And if not, then how would we break out of it? Well, with all this in mind, you can now understand the reasoning behind why you are trying to stop yourself from doing this. You are far too comfortable. You are far too complacent. And you have carved out a nice little niche where you can indulge your desires, which leaves very little interest left to uncover what you have buried. Yes, uncover. What you think you seek is not going to be found somewhere externalized in an objectified state. This isn't a search that entails following a path to a destination. It isn't an undertaking that will become open and easy after the ego undergoes some transformative process. What you think you need to search and find is already right there before you, hiding in plain sight, just below the surface. So take off your hiking boots and instead just grab a shovel and start clearing away all of the layers of attachments, projections, distractions, and overcomplications that you have deluged onto the pure mind, and start to create some space, flexibility, and freedom from the over-encumbered persona.